follow in their footsteps. So we have a great evening for you this evening. As I said earlier, for those who missed it, we are using Slido. So Slido is an app. Download it. When you get onto Slido, the hashtag you need is hashtag twist and turns 2. Once you put that in, it will log you into the event. There you can ask questions. There you can make comments, your reflections. Do please be honorable in what you say when you're on. Now, if you do see questions that connect with you and you believe in and you want those questions to be asked, feel free to vote for each question. As you vote, the more votes a question has, it rises to the top of the leaderboard, and we will make sure that those questions get asked. So the format for this evening, we will have around 40 minutes, because we're running behind time, around 40 minutes in conversation with our special guests. And then we will move to an interactive session, which will also run for about 40 minutes, where you can ask any questions. You just lift your hand, a microphone will come to you, say your name and ask your question, and we'll get into it. Okay. So there's a quote that I love. The quote says something like, "To dream is free, but success is sold separately." What that means is that anybody, and indeed everybody, dreams. But those dreams never leave the prison of your mind unless you're willing to hustle and conquer. Our guest tonight is somebody who has done that many times over. He's had a career which spans over 40 years. He doesn't look more than 40 years old, mind you, but he has a career that has spanned that long. He's been a CEO for about 25 years, which is a long time. He's black, in case you wondered. He's worked with 4 prime ministers. He's built some of the most interesting and fascinating contemporary office spaces in the world. And he's distinguished in every way you can imagine. So every award that there is, and we'll get into some of that in conversation, he has. So please, can I crave your indulgence to join me in welcoming Mr. Daniel Taylor, MBE.
Thank you. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you.
So welcome, sir. It's an honor to have you. We are terribly excited. Don't mind the fact there's some free spaces. I do guarantee you in a matter of moments, people will be flooding in.
Yes.
So for those who have looked you up, and even myself, we've had a couple of conversations, we all know about the success. We know about the awards. We know about the sustainable cycle of success you've had over a long period of time. But we also know that for most people who succeed, the environment in which they grew up often shapes how they go on to achieve success. So could you put into perspective what it was like growing up in Clapham in the 60s?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me today, and I'm truly honoured to be here in this TARDIS. Because when, as a designer, when you pull up to this building, you don't know what you're going to see till you come through the door. Indeed. So it's an amazing space. I suppose for me, when growing up in the 60s, my parents were 2 hard-working Caribbean from Jamaica. My mother was a nurse, and my father was a mechanic, and had ambitions to always wanted to go back. Oh, in fact, you can see my grandfather's the person sitting on the stoop, and that was our kitchen. So where the dog sits, there my grandmother used to put the coffee, because we used to grow coffee in the Blue Mountain and lay out the coffee to dry, and then that was a treat on Sunday. So just a simple thing like having a coffee was a treat, you know, if you think that. So my parents sent me back when I was 8 to go and live with my grandparents to understand values. And when you grew up in Clapham, you know, you can only go 2 ways. You know, one being the the wrong way and the right way. And just to show you the right way, one of my business associates, I actually was my first friend I ever met in kindergarten, what you call kindergarten, a guy called Mark Jeffries. And me and Mark are still friends to this day, and we've done work together. We're kind of, have you seen that TV program where every 10 years they do a kind of, where are they now type of thing? Me and Mark have been doing that for the last 40 years. So we contact ourselves around October for him, September for me, and we recap where the family, we show pictures where the kids are doing, for argument's sake, and what we're doing in business. And if I got a problem in business, I will pick up the phone. In fact, these days it's LinkedIn, which, by the way, as I would suggest to all of you, become LinkedIn members. That's another way to expand your network. So, went to Jamaica, and really understood some of the really hard facts of life, and one of them being electricity. Just being able to flick a switch was a massive thing. I remember flying, my aunt, who's no longer with us, on my father's side, she flew to England to pick me up to then take me to Jamaica. And I'm on the BOAC plane, not British Airways, BOAC plane. Now I'm sitting there and I'm looking as the plane comes into Kingston, and I'm seeing these beautiful lights. First, I've never been on the plane, and looking at the lights and thinking, wow, that's fantastic. And I remember this always stuck in my head, and my aunt said to me, don't look at that part there, you're going to that dark part over there. And as soon as I got off that plane, she drove me straight there. And so it's understanding values like that. Simple things like looking after things like shoes, clothes, food. You take for granted. My grandparents didn't have it. And my parents only gave as much to sustain me there, but not enough for me to understand the nicey parts, which our children and enjoy today, which we give them freely. So I did that, did my 11 plus there. Then I came back here to England, found that my educational level was higher for the same age when I came back here. Then did my master's at the Royal College of Arts later on, and got my first job. And that's when my life started to change.
How many people have lived without electricity? Few and far between. How many people are on LinkedIn, by the way? Because that was really important. So everybody should get onto LinkedIn. You don't have to have a pretty picture. Any picture will do, as long as it's professional. Put your name up, put your ambition up. If you don't have a job, just say what you want to achieve in life, and you'll be surprised the sort of connections you make. So what do you make of what we young people often say? We say, it's so difficult now for us young ones in breaking out due to distractions, the internet, the social media, and so on. Now comparing that to having to wait until Sunday to drink coffee, when we have 3 or 4 coffees by midday, shoes and clothes.
I wish I'd discovered Starbucks. But it's interesting when you see everybody's got phones. And back in my day, if you wanted to communicate, you actually go and see the person. The power of the voice of the one-to-one was so powerful then, as it is still now. I think my son and my daughter, for instance, live by the phone, slave by the phone, for argument's sake, and you kind of feel that they're missing out. Don't get me wrong. My life hasn't been perfect by a long shot, but I wouldn't trade how I've come through life, especially in my early days. I wouldn't trade it. And as you get older, your memories become more vivid about where you've come from, the steps, the journey you've been on. and you become really vivid. When you're young, you don't remember that thing because you think that life is about the next paycheck. And the trials and tribulations of dealing with life. So you can't think of behind. And as you get older, you actually think of the journey which has brought you here. And my journey is probably no different than yours, but it, for me, is important to me as a human being, as a person who could sit here today and say, wow, I'm being honoured by it, being asked to be here is something which is for me kind of giving back, to yourselves.
I mean, that is so true. I mean, I'm a young parent, and one of the things I say, and I know a lot of people say, is I want to give my kids the opportunities I didn't have. But then in building that platform for them, they're disconnected from the very values that got me to where I was. So how do you keep... I mean, you're with... Nathan's here this evening. So Nathan's your last, I believe?
No, he's second.
Second.
I do.
One of them. Yeah. One of them. So Nathan's 18, studying interior design at Westminster University. UAR Chelsea. Well, tells you what I know about interior design. Yeah. But how do you keep Nathan and Naomi and so on grounded? Well,
if I kind of take you a story when they were probably, Nathan was probably about 6 or 7, and Naomi was probably about 11 or 12, and Cameron was probably about 4, and we sat round our dining room table. We've been in our home for 20 odd years in the one house, by the way, and I remember sitting there, and I said to my wife, I said, look, we need to become Jewish. And she said, what do you mean? I mean, the Jewish people know how to look after wealth. And I said, you know what? Let's. We sat down with the kids and said, right, we're going to. I was saying to a pastor upstairs, and I said, look, we're going to educate you. We're going to give you all the best things we can give in life, and my son's here to testify if that's a truth or not. And we're going to show you the world, which we have done. But what we've said to you is at the end of this cycle, you have to look after us. And we're talking about, this is probably 10, 12 years ago. And that's a powerful message when you look at us as people, for instance, but we do not know how to look after wealth. We do, those who go up the ladder, for instance, some of you have parents or families or business associates which have actually built assets, but don't actually know how to move those assets in the right way. Jewish people know how to move, their money is always moving up. Ours is always kind of moving down. Maybe sideways, if you're lucky, but very rarely up. And I said to myself that, I didn't set out to want to become a millionaire. That wasn't the motivation. Funny enough, probably when I was starting out, I want to make money, But then once you start getting into that circle of making money, you become more philosophical about life, and you become more grounded with life. And and my values now, what my goals are a lot different than my goals at the beginning. So we said to our kids that, you are our pension. I still call him my pension. It's like, it's the car I could have had. So, and so all of them have been, my daughter, for instance, who has a mum's frugalness, her beauty and the frugalness of life. We were in New York this year, and her partner had already asked me for her hand in marriage. So I actually knew this. This is all secret. So the wife was involved, and it's all, for us, it's a massive deal. And we're in New York, and we're walking through the streets of New York, and I forgot where we were going. Have you seen the film Say Yes to the Dress? Right. So we're walking in the streets, and guess who we see? The guy who owns Yes to the Dress. Yeah, the glasses. Yeah, right. So Naomi hasn't seen this program. So we said, we've got to come inside this shop, and she's, taking photographs with this guy. And she said, "What's the big deal?" Right. I'm sending the photographs to her mum, and her mum is crying. She's crying, and when she found out she was going to get married, the circle of life is now starting to go round again, because we're starting to create new connections. The bond is becoming stronger, and we feel we're part of a journey, which we all sometimes take for granted with our own parents, but they're not part of where you should be going, and we now feel we're part of that journey. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, I think that deserves a round of applause, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
No, I don't want to ask what type of car you could have got in.
It'll be a big 4x4.
But what you say about being Jewish, I think that's something that's crossed everybody's mind. But not everybody's done it. Now, the thing you say about money going up in other communities and in ours going down, I think there is also something about money moving around within the community.
Yes.
That we see with others, and that's not replicated with us. In fact, in the conversation we had this morning, we talked about the fact that we are more likely to trust and connect with people outside our community than we are those within. What do you make of that?
Well, I would say to you all that I bet you a fiver that if you had two people in front of you, and one was white and one was black, you trust the white first before you trust the black. The black has to still work that much more harder to get your trust than the white. Now, I've been fortunate that I have worked with some of the most powerful people in the world, and because I'm equal. I'm very confident about myself. I'm a dark-skinned guy working in the. I don't care. You use the same bathroom as I do. So as I know what I'm doing, unless I'm doing something badly, then I understand. I deserve to fail. But doesn't it say something to you that when you go down a high street, a typical high street, Dalston High Street, and you'll see 6 barber shops, black barber shops, 3 hairdressing shops for female, and 10 nail shops. And you think, why do we not say to ourselves, why don't we come together and do one big one, for instance, and share the wealth? There's something which I do when I talk to my people, and we might be doing a massive bid, and I might say, look, let's do X, Y, and Z, and they'll say, well, we're only going to get part of the job, and I say, I actually prefer part of the cake than none of the cake. Think about it. If you want to be greedy and have all of it, then fair play to you. You may succeed, you may fail, but wouldn't you want to increase the odds? If you think about some of the things we see on the high street, like W.H. Smith's, Starbucks, and so forth and so forth, they make money as you ramp across the nation. They probably don't make money on your high street. So 3 or 4% against 500 shops makes you money. 3 or 4% on one shop makes you none. So, so that's a kind of a frustration I always see with working with, seeing black businesses who could do more well. I sit on the board for the Power List, which is the top 100 powerful black people in the UK, and there's a woman who's going to probably get the award next year, a woman called Pat McGrath. Have you heard of her? Yeah. Right. She'll probably win it with a $1 billion business in makeup. Do you think she's got her act together? She already recognizes that, how to work out the distribution, work out the product mix, get it right. who knows about product mixes for our own kind than our own? But yet we trust it with Chinese, Indian. I don't get it. We ourselves should understand how the power of our pound. We should really do. If, for instance, you help somebody to, I'm going to give you, for instance, I'm doing work with Yemi here, Daniel Ford. He gave me work he didn't have to give me. The job actually isn't a big job, but the thing is, for me, it's a start. I've been in presentations where American firms say, we started off by doing a door, and now we do a city. And I look at myself at some of the best work I've ever done started from doing something as simple as a door. And in life's journey, this is power, is in this room. I'd be surprised. Some of you may contact me in this room, or I might do something for somebody in this room and move you up another level. Who knows?
There's something you said that I just want to probe a little further about not knowing the power of our pound. Now, we, as a community, fund perhaps some of the biggest companies there are in the world.
Yes.
Because other communities understand our value and we don't. Do you recognize that?
Well, that's such a true thing. Some of you are probably too young enough because I can just see over the slide. But do anybody remember One-to-One? Yes. Do you know we built that company? If you think about it, it used to be free phone calls for the weekend. We built that company. That company which is now T-Mobile, whatever they call themselves. And yet we have businesses in Africa which actually has the power. There was one firm, I forgot what the name is, which sold their business to Vodafone in Africa, who had the notion that they could create a telecoms company. One-to-One was about how to exploit our greed. You think about it. Because it was free, people just call it, look, it's after 7. I'll call you back in a minute. I'll call you back in a minute. And it's 7 o'clock. I can talk now for hours. I could talk for hours, There's another company which is out now called Libara. Anybody using that? Right. I saw a presentation today. All your money is going towards a firm which has offices which will blow your mind. But yet it's off the power and the strength of your pound is making them stronger. So, you think about it. When you go and buy that next item, think about whether or not could you help somebody in this room.
So I think I'm going to sit and think about that one for the rest of the week, right? T-Mobile's worth tens and hundreds of billions.
Been resold and to what it is, but One-to-One was the biggest thing on the planet, as far as UK is concerned, in comparison to BT, and we built it. Most black people I knew had an 07956 number. In fact,
some still do.
In fact, Nathan's got one, which is his mother's number. So think of it. So you see, I'm connecting with you that the things which you take for granted. Do you know, if you talk to Stamford Hill and the Jews there, the true Jew will not drive a German car. Yes. As a matter of principle, he will not drive a German car. So but we will drive anything. Well, in fact, we will drive anything. It's a principle. And if I start asking the question about across this room, our biggest problem is that we all come from different parts of the world and different cities and tribes, and it goes on and on. But we have one common denominator. We are black. Until we make that the priority, we're never going to get this together.
Wow. I'm still stuck on not driving German cars. I'm not sure how many people can live without driving German cars. I want to come back to something. We talked about the sacrifice that our parents have made and grandparents have made. Even talking about 07956 numbers, it was going over some people's heads. What do you think grandparents would make of what goes on today, where despite their sweat and their blood, we as young people, particularly in London, young men, young women having their lives cut short through knife crime and gang activity and drugs, some really, really promising, really talented people who have good grades, and yet they don't build on the platforms of yesterday. What would they make of it?
Well, I think they'll be pretty shocked that you may feel that we've moved the barometer a little bit further. But I mean, like, for instance, how many of you are going to vote? Really vote. Don't put your hand up if you don't. Now, if you think about that, you have the most powerful tool you are choosing not to use when people have given up their lives to give you that opportunity to use that vote. No matter whether or not you think your vote is wasted or not, you should vote. You know, and take pride that you are stepping in massive shoes, which are them. Now, my grandparents would look at today and be slightly confused because of our leaders. We have no real leaders like the Martin Luther King, the Mandelas, and the Malcolm X's. So when you look at your pastor, for instance, that's the strongest leadership you're going to get these days, because you can't rely on the Diana Abbotts of this world. That, you know, and people, who's going to talk about that, the knife crime in your area, the life which has been lost? You know, it's not going to be those. How many times have you turned on your TV and seen them stand up? Look at the TV coverage from the rabbi open up his mouth about Corbyn, about what is it? Anti-Semitism. Well, you know, if you think about how many of us came on a ship, and and the Windrush problems, you know, that died down pretty quick, didn't it? The Windrush. That's not. You know, where's my £10,000 for the Windrush problem? You see where I'm coming from? And the reason why you're not, and I keep on drumming home this message, is the reason why they don't care is because we don't care. If we cared more, you'd be surprised. You know, we are powerful people, but we are not using it.
I'm going to draw breath there for a moment. How are we doing on Slido? Are there questions going up?
Probably not.
We've got one. All right, so we need a few of these questions to go up. Well, we're about to move into the interactive session, so can I ask that you start deploying your app button? I just want to bring us back to, so we've talked about the early part of your life. Now, how did you then make the big break? So from coming back from Jamaica, being ahead of your peers here, it tells you all you need to know about educational systems. How did you then transition from that through to university, deciding on what you wanted to study?
Well, I started my career at the Westinghouse. Have you heard of Westinghouse? The big conglomerate. They make everything from nuclear plants to fridge freezers and light bulbs. They sold me this. I'm a product designer, so I design product. And they showed me what was the office of the future, and I bought into that massively. I thought, this is revolutionary. But the thing what was very clear in my head as well is that I was also a person who wanted to make money. So I'm driven by the career as well as making money. I was fortunate that I met in that job with a mentor who was white, by the way. He's a guy called Chris Klassen, and who was going through the ranks of Westinghouse, and then got a job at another company called All Steel, which was part of a company called BTR Nilex, which is one of the biggest conglomerates in the United Kingdom at the time. And as Chris was going up the ranks, he trusted me. So as he went up, I went up. So I ended up being managing director of EMA, or actually anything outside of the United States at the time. Now, what does that mean? That means I was traveling to places like Czechoslovakia, not Czech Republic as it's known now. I went to Qatar when there was only one hotel. Wow. And when the plane was landing, it was like going to the Bible, you know, with the wow. Yeah. That was Qatar, Doha. You know, so I went to Russia. I was in Moscow, and I remember, and them time I had hair, so you know, a little afro, the jerry curls, you know. So yeah, and I had people taking photographs and touching me, because the National Geographics, you know. So, but I was by far the first. When I started my office life, for instance, the receptionist was answering the phone in the reception, putting a button in a physical into the wall. And to send an international message, somebody was typing it on a telex in another room to send it. That's my office life. So a typewriter was a physical typewriter on the desk, you know. So I was drawing on using board and tri-square. So that's how my life had started. So as I moved from there, for instance, I had met my wife, Dawn, during that period, and the business. Oh, there you go. That's my lovely wife. For those men in the room, get the best black woman you can find.
Did you notice it was the women sharing, right?
Yeah. But I have to say, for me, everything you've heard today from me, the finest thing I've ever done was to marry my wife. Wow. Yeah. Without her, I am nothing. Wow. And when you look in that journey, and you talk about, you know, when massive change, there was a massive change. BTR sold the company and sold it to an American firm. And I was working serious hours, you know. I was working, I probably would go to bed about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, because I'm picking up Far Eastern time when they are waking up and doing conference calls and so forth, and in America would be working. It was crazy hours, you know, and them days it was the phone, the mobile phone. I had a mobile phone which was as big as a brick. You know, that's the only phone I've ever lost, is one of them. Believe it or not, I've left it on the side of Canary Wharf. When I did that, you know, I had to re-look at my life, and you know, my wife said to me that, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I promise you I'll slow down. I didn't want to take another big job. And those days as well, by the way, is even though I was doing very well in the job, I was still black. Please remember, you know, I'm still black. So even if I was going to go for a big job, I would have to sell probably my soul to get that big job. So I decided I had a couple of good clients, which my clients tend to be friends. Like, you know, they become friends. I pride myself on that I try and elevate it to friendship. And I had a couple of clients, both of them were in IT. One was called Spring.com and the other one was Parity IT Solutions. And I ended up, they said, both of the guys who ran them said, yeah, we'll support you. You do your thing and we'll, you know, put our work through you. And that was my lucky break. And then my first year, I was probably turning over, you know, £1.5, £2 million. I was balancing the checkbook like I was doing my personal checkbook, in and out. What I would only pay out what I got in, and vice versa, and balancing it that way. So I was doing it very, crude. And my accountant said, "Look, idiot, you're running a substantial 7-figure business. You shouldn't, and by the way, you only have 2 clients. If one of them go, you're gone." So here's where we don't do this very well either, is investment. So I said to myself, you know what, I'm gonna have to ramp this up. I have to ramp this up. I have to put back. So what I was making, I was plowing it back in. But always remember, make sure you pay yourself. You've got to balance life, but if you don't pay yourself, you're defeating the object. So and plus as well, when we had our daughter, for instance, we were a young family. My wife was still there. She said, "I'll always keep." When I met my wife, she was actually a nail technician who owned. I helped her buy her first shop, and that was in Dalston Market. And then when we had our first child, we made a decision that she would give up that shop and become a homemaker. And because she did that, I'm indebted to her. She's reliant on me to sustain her. If you think about it, because she's given up. She's given up something for me. So I need to give something to her. And to give her an idea, for instance, I was saying to Pastor, but my wife is in a retreat in Thailand for 4 weeks. And this is her 3rd week. And this is more to help her with weight loss and her well-being and that sort of thing. And I do that type of thing because I know that she's happy, I'm happy. So I'm always balancing things. Risk, if you run a business... Thank you. If you run a business, you've got to understand risk. If you run life, you've got to understand risk. So for me, that was no-brainer. By the way, I drive a car, my wife drives a better car. Nice. Come on, man. Go figure. Go figure. At the end of the day, and Nathan's here can testify. When things have gone hard, I've had to cut back on the business and everything. Never do it with my wife. I'd actually cut back sufficiently to make sure that she's still... So she's never seen the bumps. And Yemi made a point about when things get hard. I squirrel away a lot, for a rainy day. But, so when I started Metro, or MDC now, I was driving a Cherokee, that's it. And you could only get me on mobile phone going up and down the M4, going between my client sites. I did my first project in Northern Ireland, in the County Antrim, where they bomb. So there's me standing there as a black guy doing the job in the Troubles. Because the Troubles was 20, I think the end of it was 20 odd years ago. So, and I was taking work wherever I can get it. This was a project I was doing and I met the IRA. I had a visit from them to pay them off for protection. Wow. So, and they couldn't care what color I am. I just talk funny. Wow. That's as far as they were concerned. So I went through the troubles of building the business. But one of the fundamental things I did, I said I'm going to own my asset. So I didn't want to rent something, I bought something. So as I bought something, which was a converted church hall, was our first office. First it was our bedroom, then our church office, church hall. And then I bought another building, which is a BT building, which I moved our other office, which I still own today. And I just I actually had the pleasure of walking Yemi through my facilities in Croydon, which I bought, which is, if you can understand, it's a huge facility, which is a tribute to my design and workplace. And so I always think that in a rainy day, I can get rid of assets. So that's my, safety net, if you want to use that.
There's so many nuggets in there, I don't even know where to start. But how many people heard that you need to make sure you make your wife look better than you? Are there any women in the room? How many people heard that you should find a man who will look after you? All right, okay. I thought I'd check. I think what's happening is people are just paralyzed at some of what you've said. We've talked before about the mentality of an entrepreneur. Many people here self-identify as entrepreneurs. What does it really take? What is the mentality that one needs to have to succeed as an entrepreneur, to move from dreaming to thriving?
Yeah, that's a real tough question. But if you've seen individuals like Richard Branson, who understands market trends and be able to identify, with him it's more about brand. He understood brand from the 60s. Virgin actually was a record label. That's how it spun from that. You look at individuals like Bill Gates. We all know it's Microsoft, but Bill Gates actually was probably the smartest entrepreneur. At the same time, the chap from who started Apple, who's Steve Jobs. That's right. Steve Jobs was an academic. He was a geek. So he wanted to get the product right, and he focused on the product. Bill Gates was actually a brilliant coder, but he also said, I want to make money. So he stole the rank Xerox idea to create what we now call the Microsoft. That man can actually wipe the debt of the Caribbean and part of South America if he wanted to. But he decides he's going to, Global health, that's it. As if we all need that. Yeah. He doesn't want to be rude. Yeah. So to be an entrepreneur, some of you guys, anybody running businesses themselves? Independent businesses? And, when I say independent, is it one shop, or is it, how many employees? 2 or 3 employees? If you're lucky? Right. And, that creates challenges, doesn't it? But how many of you are prepared to risk it all? I mean, really risk it all. Well, there's one at the back. That when I did a project, I won't probably say the name, but I got a check for 1.6 million put in my hand to walk away from a job. To walk away. And I don't want to say, there's a job which was promised to us, we was contractually agreed to it, it's a public business, and to make me not make a ruckus, which I would have done, they gave us 1.6 million. Now I could have said to me, I put that 1.6 million in my pocket and be that much richer. But I actually, I plowed the money back into the business and reinvested. Now, and also made them pay elsewhere. But, to make it clear, a true entrepreneur has to be somebody who's got to be balanced from a home life to a work life. And when you get to a work life, you've got to get that home life right if you're going to go and step on that edge of the precipice and you're going to look down, you want to know that there's somebody back here who's going to hold you whilst you take that thing. And if you drop, that person will still be there for you. So I'm lucky that I have that.
Thank you, sir. Now, you've managed to do this over 40 years. And the one thing that is consistent, so your personal website, your business website, your Twitter account, I've been stalking you, your Instagram, consistently, the family are front and center.
Yeah.
Your family are in the business. You've built a tribe, you've built a family business that will last a long time. Nathan's studying interior design, Cameron's in the business, Naomi's a director, Michelle's a director. Michelle's your
a niece.
Your niece.
And then my goddaughter is
Tiana.
Tiana. I have a women structure beneath me, by the way. The only one in our industry who has it.
Sorry, we didn't hear that. Say that again. You've got
A woman structure directorship below myself, which runs...
Wow.
there you go.
Wow.
We're the only company in our industry which has that structure, and also all black.
Wow.
So I empower them, and I must say, this structure has probably only been going for about 11 years, but prior to that, I can tell you, it's never run better for me. And that's genuine. If you look at our profits, look at how we run our business, how it's managed, it's never run better. But that's because I trust them. And as going back to this scenario, Jewish business, hey, it's working. Circle of life. They'll get up every morning, they'll be there on time, they don't take the mickey, they always give me 100%, I don't have to check credit cards, I don't have to check where the money is be lost. They'll take a salary, not a penny more, not a penny less. That is the strength of love and trust.
Amazing. We can't have a conversation and not talk about your MBA. And first of all, congratulations on your MBA.
Thank you.
Where were you when you found out you'd been nominated?
I think I was in Mumbai. We cruise a lot for Christmas. So sorry, we cruise a lot. Yeah, we cruise. And I remember being in the cabin, and I think I actually kind of knew before that they wrote me a letter, and it was like a letter come through the post, and my wife opened it, and she said, "Oh, it looks like, would you accept an honour from the Queen?" And it was on cheap paper, and I said, "It's a wind-up." So she said, "Look, just send it back." And this is like in September. We never heard anything back. So you could get it or not get it, because you have to go through checks with the government, and the Queen has to still sign off on it. So I'm on a ship in I think it was around Mumbai. It could be Sri Lanka. And then suddenly we was watching Sky News. You can get Sky News, and it came up that the honours list had come up, and my phone started to blow up. But congratulations and so forth. And then I got told that I was given an MBE, and my MBE is more so for business design and diversity in the workplace. And that picture you saw of my wife and myself, that's not an MBE for me, that's an MBE for both of us. That's why we have that shot, by the way. That shot is, that's both of us. You see her pride? Trust me, she was proud, more prouder than me. For it. Yeah, but anyway.
So it was Prince Charles that did your investiture.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Do you remember what he said to you? Because you were in conversation for at least 25 seconds. Don't worry, I've been stalking him. I watched it.
Do you know, the thing is with when you go to the palace, and on that day, the same day as Gareth Southgate. So Gareth was, in the line I came in, and we was talking, and you've got to remember steps. 10 steps, stop it there, wait to hear your name, 5 steps, turn, face him, walk towards him. And I'm thinking, I'm going to trip up and I'm going to grab this man's pants. I'm thinking, Lord, please do not let me trip. Because at that time I was clumsy. I could trip over my own feet, and I'm thinking, no, my family's up there watching, and I'm, and Prince Charles is talking to me. I have no idea what he says up to this day. I'm saying, and you see me doing this, and I'm thinking, right, wait. When he takes his hand away, you've got to start walking back. so he takes his hand away. Right, I'm walking back, and my wife said, well, what did he say? I said, do you know what? I had no idea, but his hands were soft. I said his hands were soft. That's all I can remember. His hands were soft. I'll tell you another thing, a joke. I did the Conservative Party's HQ design, and I was in a photo shoot. The Times newspaper, there's cartoonists, Gerald Scarf, and Gerald did a drawing for me, and we did a launch party. We did 2 launches. Our website was launched at, not this one, but 3 or 4 goes ago, website, at the Conservative Party. And Lord Saatchi, who was chairman of the board at the time, he came for the launch, and we had a photo shoot. And I'm sitting there with Lord Saatchi, owner of Saatchi and Saatchi, and just to show you how I'm such a person who's don't care of your status. I said to him, Lord Saatchi, you've got fascinating shoes. Where did you get them from? And he looked down and he said, these are things, old boy, I have no idea. Wow. And that's me all over, because at the end of the day, as I told you earlier, they still use the same toilet as me. And I'm articulate. I'm in the room for a reason. You've got to be in the room to do it. Yeah.
I'm afraid we have to draw this to a close, but we can't stop without me talking to you about the Alito Foundation. So you're a trustee of the Alito Foundation. This is a foundation that provides leadership and mentorship programs. Over 400 graduates. 95% of people who have been through this are now in employment.
Yes.
Over 8,000 hours of training delivered. And you do this with a number of other illustrious black people. Could you just tell us a few things about the program, its ambitions, where it wants to be, and how people can connect with it?
Well, the foundation was pulled together by people who saw young people who are coming out of university needed to understand about being more empowered, how to the strength of one, and we're proving it that it works. And part of that was that the confidence. When you're in your classroom and you're by yourself, you're confident because you only have to study the book, write on the paper, get your grade. But life only, you're doing steps. When you do your GCSEs, that's a step. Nobody cares how many GCSEs you've done. When you get to A-levels, that's another step. Nobody cares how many A-levels you've done. When you get your degree, that's the step. Once you got your degree, people say, right, where did you degree? They ask you, where did you get it? So once you get over that for the first 2-3 years, nobody cares. You're now in the room. Yeah, right. So when you think, Alito was about empowering them to understand the steps. They think, well, I've got the degree, the life should come and hug me. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You've got to go out there, you've got to shake hands, you've got to do the LinkedIn bit, you've got to come to sessions like this, you've got to talk to people. If you want to progress as an individual, you've got to work. The work only starts after you get the degree. That's the easy part. You're going to pay any bills then. Now you're going to pay bills. So we kept on drumming home to people. When I used to do the mentoring bit, the mentoring week, before I became a trustee, and I used to always tell my 15 cohorts to say, look, everybody you see here is now part of your alumni. They came from all over the country and said, these are your alumni. Never forget these people. Create a link, WhatsApp group, and made that a power unit. They network in that WhatsApp group. They beg for money when they want to get maybe go and get their masters or some help and so on and so forth. But they've got a social network they can rely on. I know that face. I know what that person's story is. And so when you look at the Board of Trustees, for instance, we have Sir Kenneth Elise, who's the Queen's adjutant. You've seen every time when you see the Queen in London is walking, going around a function, you'll see a guy in a lieutenant suit. That's Kenneth. He just became knighted a year before me. Then you have Gary Eldon, OBE, and Gary is a amazing story. He started life where his father drove cabs, mixed race family, type thing, but he's the most real individual you'll ever want to meet. Runs a £1 billion recruitment business. 1 billion. Lives in the house in Chelsea in Cheney Walk. And a supporter of Arsenal, which I love him dearly. But the thing is that with and I met Gary at a dinner function in Soho, and I went up to Gary and said to him at the time, I said, "You don't give your work to black people," and I said, "You should give your work you're doing to me." And he said to me, "So as I'm competitive, he'll give me the work." Now, he's running a PLC business. He's supposed to go through due diligence. But he went out of his way to give me that work. And we've done, I probably about £2 million worth of work, some of that, we've done with his business. That's Gary Eldon. So if you ever look at the later and you see him, he keeps it real. Keeps it very real. And then we have some recent people on the board, which I don't know them because they only just come in. But I just want to make one mention of a person who's probably the most powerfulest black woman I've ever met in the UK, who's probably an unsung hero, and that is Dr. Yvonne Thompson. Look her up. She's now champion Wintrade, which is a women's organisation to empower black women and so forth in the UK. Now, that may not mean something to you, but she was the first board member of NatWest, a black person. She sat on the Transport for London board, and she is a CBE, should well be a Dame, and she will always give you the last penny in her purse, if you ask her. By the way, started Choice FM. Yeah. She was a board member and trustee of the board of the company as well. And that's me.
Amazing. One final question. For a man who has, for the most part, achieved beyond what most people will measure as success, what do you want your legacy to be?
I know you asked me that this morning. I suppose in some ways that my legacy is that my children understand about the respect of human beings and more respect to their partner. How to treat people. My own personal legacy or goal, should I more say, is to not die alone. I see now more how life becomes a circle, and how if you're not careful, that light will go and you could be left alone, or I could leave and leave somebody alone. So the power of the family is becoming more important to us as we got older, and you probably see it with your own families. You know, the older generation seem to want to play a stronger role and try and keep the family unit again. Trust me, it's powerful. You know, and as you know, I'm in my 50s, so I'm getting up to that age where, you know, they're talking pension. Yeah, God forbid. You know, and my legacy has to be that, you know, I've done a lot, seen a lot, talked a lot, but my children are my future. They carry my name, they carry my aspirations, and they are my legacy, I suppose.
Thank you so much. So we're now going to spend the next 15 minutes, no more than 15 minutes, going through the questions. Can we turn the lights on so we can read these out? So we'll alternate between questions on Slido and questions in the room. Going to Slido first. Let's see. Okay. Let's take the second one. How did you figure out the career path you decided to follow? Did you ever feel like quitting? How did you overcome that feeling?
Yeah. Actually, there are many times when I feel like quitting. If you think about it, that's the thing about being an entrepreneur, isn't it? It's the highs and lows of doing what you do. You know, the disappointment. You know, don't think that it's always gravy. It's not. You know, you've got to be prepared to take the swings life will throw at you. And, you know, when I think that, you know, I've had some, I've seen 3 or 4 recessions as a company, and still here today to tell the tale. You know, I remember sitting one day in the car and seeing 9/11 happen, taking a client to look at, it was a product, but I remember that happened. I remember when sitting at one day when the Chancellor came out and said my mortgage was going to go from, you know, 10% to something like 150, whatever it was, you know, something stupid, because they wanted to defend the pound. You know, so, you know, I overcome. I have to say, I will say this: that you must always have a good outlook about life. I'm relative when it comes to business. I'm very balanced. You know, I see problems as things which can be overcome. I use this point to Michael, but one of my famous sayings is, "It is what it is." Yeah. So I draw a line, because we'll get into, and we'll chase our tails, and we'll say, yeah, this and that, and we'll be arguing for an hour and a half, and what's that going to get us? The problem has still happened. Let's get rid of that, and what's the solution?
Got a question.
Yeah.
What's your typical day like when you wake up? How do you process the day?
Well, these days, I'm up at 5:30. In fact, I'm up at 5:15. I watch the business program on BBC between 5:30 and 10 minutes to 6. I'm in the car by 6:05. I'm at the gym by 20 past. If you ever see 6:30, I'm on the treadmill. I'll tell you. Clockwork as ever. I have 2 hours, and that's when I focus. I deal with all the problems, the issues goes through my head, and when you're pounding on the thing, you know, what can you do but think? Yeah, I'm pounding. I'm going, oh, yeah, right, yeah, okay. She's not happy? Okay. Yeah, so I'm pounding, and then and when I get into the sauna, to me, I've reached the finish line. So I'm sitting there, and it's 10 minutes, and I'm thinking, wow. And then when I get out in the fresh air, I'm ready for the day. And I do that 7 days a week. 7 days a week, he will tell you. By the way, I was 5.5 stones bigger in December. Wow. When I heard that I got my MBE, I went on the weight loss because I didn't want to stand in front of the future king looking like a fat person. There's nothing being fat for it, but I didn't want to be. I thought so. No. My parents are going to see this picture.
Wow. Yeah. Now I can attest to Mr. Taylor's early start. I got a text message this morning at 5:01, I believe.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That
early in the morning.
Michael sent. By the way, this is also with a perfect marriage, or not perfect, a good marriage. I wouldn't say perfect. There's not something that's perfect, but a good marriage. One of the things I do is I wear headphones in bed. So I'll put the TV on, and I make say, Dawn, could you put the blinds on your face? So she's got the face, so she can't distract by the light. So, and I'm listening to the thing, and that's when I catch up on international stuff. So I look on the emails and I quickly respond. I'm relatively quick on emails response. Yemi would testify to that. Because I always think that if you respond quickly, you move it out the way, for argument's sake. If you respond slowly, they're not going to take you too seriously, and you're going to forget. And so I like to be on point when it comes to that. Annoying to some people, because sometimes I use emails like texts. I'll respond, keep on responding type of thing. But that's probably one of the things.
Do we have a question in the auditorium? We've got one there and one here. So we'll take the one in the corner there first. Do please say your name before asking your question.
Good evening, sir. My name
Good
is
evening.
Freddie. I wanted to ask you actually two questions. Did you always know you were going to be successful from a young age?
Yes.
Like always?
I tell you why, because it's a serious thing. I actually tried out as a youngster to Southampton Football Club. It wasn't successful. I tried out at Surrey Cricket Club. Wasn't successful. I actually did athletics and jumped for Wandsworth, which I was relatively okay on. And God had vision for me to not be successful. I probably was one of the black kids who wanted to be a footballer or a cricketer or something who didn't make it. So you could imagine if somebody had another vision for me. But my vision was always that I wanted to do something powerful.
And my second question was, in fact, it was a lead on from the first question in the sense of it. The reason why I asked that was, how do you personally deal with doubt and fear? Because what I see in the black community a lot is that we have potential, but it's the doubt and fear in themselves that stop them from actually doing exploits. So that's basically me leading on.
The doubt and fear is only because of you. You're letting the media dictate your fear. If I dropped you into the Caribbean or Africa, you have no fear. So what's the difference? Because you've seen everybody else who looks like you, the white person is the strange one in that field. Now you're here, you're now thinking of yourself as being inferior. There's fear because they tell you that you're going to fail. Here's another one of mine. They'll never put you in prison for it. So if your business fails, you're not going to go to prison for it. So why do you run it legally? Yeah. So yes, it will be difficult if you fail, because at the end of the day, you have to make changes. I won't tell you that it's easy, because it's not. But I look at all the faces and the eyes which are looking back at me, and I'm saying to myself, if I had £1 and said to you, let's put £1 in the kitty to give to a charity, how many people in here? 300? £300, times it every week, times it by 4. That charity is starting to eat. What's a pound? See, and that's the logic I kind of try and use to simplify things so it makes sense to me. It should make sense to you. Doubt is because you look at yourself. It's like when you look in the mirror, should I wear this? Should I have my hair up like this? Should I, who cares? Only you care. I don't know you from a box of frogs. As far as I'm concerned, that's how you always look. It's true. So, but yet you make all these decisions and you doubt yourself and so forth. But when we're in business, for instance, I will say this for my business. If I meet another person who's of my color on the other side of the table, I expect to win. Because they understand my pain. I understand their pain. That means never take what I call the Mickey. Do you know what that means? Right. Because trust is something which you earn. And by the way, make your word be your bond. My word has always been my bond. And if you break your word, you only break it once, it's done. No matter what they say in the industry, and they'll tell you in the industry that I'm a very hard person to work with, as far as the outside people in the industry knows me, but they know that I've never failed on a project when I've given my word. So I've had suppliers and say, look, trust me, it will be done, you got my word. They hear that, it's as good as writing a check. And that's the thing we've, in this room, have got to start getting in the habit of doing. If you're going to do a painting job and you're going to turn up at 9, don't turn up at 10. Turn up at 8:30. You're going to do a plumbing job for somebody, or you're doing somebody's hair. Why open a business at 11 when the guy next door is open at 8? Have you noticed, by the way, gentlemen, that the Turks are taking over the barbershop industry? And it's all because we're so lazy. I like my hair cut every other Sunday, and I like to know that my barber's open at 9, not 9:20, because I got out of my bed to be there at 9, in my time. So I tip my barber. How many of you tip for a good service? No. See, when it comes to service, we do this. We can't get to the money. Yeah, we can't get to the money. But we're in a service industry. Most of us work in a service industry. The power of our pound in our pocket, in this room and outside of this room, is immense. If we knew how to use that power, we knew how to use political power. Political power means people who we want to hear, like this election. How many people are talking about the black people who live in this country on this election? Nobody. I'm hearing Jewish, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. Nobody. But yet, we see people, by the way, I support the Sean Bailey. Have you heard of Sean Bailey? He's running for London Mayor, Conservatives. Sean's a personal friend, and I'm actually financially sponsoring him with another black person to help him. He's running for the Conservative ticket. But what I'm saying is, I said to myself that there's a black guy. I don't actually believe in his political views, but there's a black guy trying to make a difference. If he wins office, imagine in 10 years, we could have another black person run for it. And suddenly it becomes the norm to see black people do it. But yet, I will say to you, if you see Sean on the ticket, you'll probably say, you know what? I like that Sadiq. That Sadiq, he's a nice guy. Yeah, I like him. He's a cool dude. That Sean Bailey, he's a bald. He's a black guy. He looks threatening. See what I'm coming from? We are the biggest critics of ourselves than anybody else. We will divide and conquer between. We put a knife in our own backs before we look at somebody else. I find that strange. Very, very strange.
Thank you, sir. So we're going to come to the lady at the front. We'll take another in the room before we go back to Slido. So,
Hi, my name's Adiola. Thank you for your time tonight.
No, you're welcome.
I've got two very brief but related questions. You've spoken a lot tonight about the black community. You've spoken about Windrush, and clearly you're very politically engaged. In regards to your MBE, obviously MBE stands for Member of the British Empire. We've heard recently that George the Poet has actually refused the MBE that he was offered on the basis that the British Empire has perpetrated a lot of atrocities against Africa and where we're coming from. So those two brief questions are this. One, did you ever consider refusing the MBE? And two, can you tell us about the platform that is given you by accepting it, what you've been able to do for the community?
Okay. Two very valid questions. And as a person who's a lover of the 60s and what the 60s meant to us now, we're still feeling the impact of what happened there with the Malcolm X's, the Martin Luther Kings, and even people like the JFKs and so forth. I wanted to accept this because the blood and tribulation I did to get through my career was something which I felt my wife and myself needed to be recognized. In our own industry, which has very little black people who are recognized for success, I felt for me it will help others to see that you can be recognized for something other than kicking a football. And then sorry, the second part of your question? Oh, yeah. The platform it's given me is that when I'm in the room, they see my name and they see that I've got letters. You'd be surprised, the people who suddenly gives me respect. I was at the luncheon last week with the board director of Lloyd's of London. You know Lloyd's of London, the fancy building. And because I've got a letter behind me, he hasn't. Suddenly, I mean something. Now, I couldn't got that meeting without becoming an MBE. And you've got to remember, my MBE isn't the highest honour by a long shot. It's the bottom of there's not one below mine, but there's for me it's only recognition because my work is considered more local. But OBE is more international, and CBE is more really, you should be a dame or sir. But you know what? I take what I get. Because I know that many mornings I've woken up, many evenings I've worked late, many meetings many dinners I've had, many luncheons I've had, the arguments and so forth, and still be here 20 odd years later in this business, I think is recognition I deserve.
all right, so let's go to Slido, and then we'll come back in the room to close. We have, so first question. I'm in my mid-20s and want to start investing. What is the best investment advice you have?
Mid-20s?
Yeah.
That's a tough one. In this current market, it's a tough one. I've got different types of portfolios, from stocks to property to I collect art. I'm a big collector. I collect memorabilia. Big collector of memorabilia. So that's a personal thing, and I would suggest you take advice. What works for you personally. So I can't tell you. Me, I'm different. I buy. I bought a memorabilia because a piece of memorabilia which I was there when I was young, and now I can afford it. I'm thinking this is something. Blah blah blah. It's me. You should do you. But that doesn't mean that. Don't think of yourself as a black person. You can't associate other black people to give you good advice. All right? I only just want to make that point because we'll all run off to the Indian guy to say, help us out, or the Jewish guy. I can be clear that way because the thing is that the mistakes I've made, I'm still seeing the mistakes being made by others. But the difference is I was tunnel vision and resilient to push through these to make a difference for me. I've had people hang on me and made a lot of money, but I've made sure that I've still come out the other end. You can make a lot of money. Look at the footballers, the cricketers who have made that money and end up at the end of the career with nothing. With nothing. Bad decisions. So take advice.
All right, couple more in the room. Carl at the front.
Right, so being the only black-owned business in your sector, I'm interested to know what game you're playing. Are you playing a game to be the best or to last the longest?
Actually, to be profitable. When we first started the company, I wanted to be the biggest. That don't work. And I'll tell you why. We had an office at one stage, 48 members of staff. That was a drag. Because my eye wasn't on the ball of trying to develop the business, I survived the business. So and as I said, I've been in 3 or 4 recessions. So that wasn't going to work. It's profitable, is definitely. Profit. When you look at your balance sheet and you're in a job, they're going to look at your balance sheet, they're going to say, yeah, that guy's been around a long time, he makes money. Turnover is for the fool. Because if you think about turnover, for argument's sake, you could be turning over a business and then look at your accounts. 12, 14 months previous doesn't say what you are today. And then, and also, word to the wise, and this is still a rule which I worked with when we started, is to have 12 months worth of overhead in your bank. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. 12 months of overhead to give yourself a buffer. And that's still today.
Thank you, sir. So there's a gentleman who's been waiting for a while.
Okay.
We'll come to you.
My name is Sam Fungo. I'm in real estate industry. Jamaica and Africa has the same problem, the Chinese problem. The Chinese are coming into Jamaica and Africa, and they own the place right now. And I strongly believe the diaspora can actually help resolve that problem, but we have a massive shortage of leadership. What are your thoughts about how the diaspora can help stem the invasion of Africa and Jamaica by Chinese
I
investors?
completely agree with you. And funny enough, I had a discussion only a few months ago where we as a business, as part of expansion, is to create a conglomerate of companies which comes together specifically to tackle design and construction work in those areas of part of the world. We are buying on price and politics. We're not buying on quality or understanding that it's better to keep the money within your country and circulate it than send your money offshore because it's cheaper. You're going to hear this more with Brexit come up, buy British. And it's deliberate for that because we've got to keep the money in to build our economy up. The problems I went to a stadium, Antigua, which was built by the Chinese, opened like a year and a half before, and the thing was falling apart. And I'm thinking, this is rubbish. But yet you go to Wembley Stadium, which we spend a mini fortune on, that will last probably 100 years, like the old Wembley. So, our politicians need, this is where we need, and you guys who have the opportunity to go back to your communities and put some pressure on, but our politicians need to learn, to learn about the the power of the money within the country, and the Chinese want to rape the countries from the minerals, and they're not even taking the people with them. That's the sad part. They'll bring their own Chinese and build the things themselves. So they're not even investing in the people. So I don't want to name drop, but the Jamaican Prime Minister, for instance, he came over about a year ago, and from that we won the Jamaica National Bank first branch office opening in the UK, and that was through the Jamaican government getting involved and wanting to help promote black businesses to work, and it's a real community thing, and you'll see the design come out. It's a fantastic design. It really is. Has anybody travelled to Jamaica? Okay. Well, have you been in Fern Gully? Right. Fern Gully is actually the reason of the design. So you'll find it's phenomenal. But the point is that when we was talking to Jamaican bankers, he actually said that he wished he could give more of the investment to Jamaican businesses and invest in them than to go with the Chinese government saying, here's my contractor. So I'm for it. And if I've got more energy, I'll push harder for that.
All right, so our final question of the night. I'm just going to look at Slido, see what we have. So the first one. So what's been your most difficult time in business, and how did you overcome it?
Difficult time in business. Well, I suppose in some ways, the most difficult time in business for me is at the end of the financial year. Because the new year, I've got to start again. And it's always, we call it, I'm trying to think, the forward plan, but there's a word we use internally, and it's gone out of my head. But no, and it's not focus. It's we've got an actual word ourselves, what we call it, and it's like tramline or something. And I can't remember it, and it's going to kill me now because I'm going to go from it. But the point is that for me, every year you've got to start again, and that can be depressing. And my financial year is June to June. So it's in the summer I become depressed. Some people have it December to December, so winter, it's not a big deal. By the way, so I saw one of the questions. If you don't mind, I'm going to jump. But the biggest failure on biggest failure has to be people. I've created some very talented people, and I've also met some very wicked people. This is the house of God, and you think about the challenges, you have to watch for the people who want to bring you down. And believe me, that is for me the biggest trial and tribulation I always have to face, still have to face. Not everybody's happy I've got an MBE. Not everybody is happy that we have a business which does pretty well. Not everybody's happy that the kids are happy, or the wife is happy. There's always people. There's a word, red eye. That doesn't necessarily just work for people within our community. It also works with people who work for you or work with you. The bank manager who may lend you the money. There's always challenges which you've got to be on your toes. You need to be very demanding. That's me. I'm very demanding with people who work with me. I've calmed down since I've had my 3 ladies behind me. They calm me. But I would be demanding, because outside of these 4 walls, there's people who rely upon me. So I'm demanding. I want it done now. Why can't it be done now? Well, stay late tonight. I'll stay with you. A leader is also a person who's prepared to lead and be seen to be leading. A leader is somebody who doesn't say, you know what, you come in at 9, I'll come in at 10. I leave at 4, you work till 6. Well, in the early days, I was in, 5 o'clock in the morning for Metro. 5 o'clock in the morning, I'd leave 7 or 8 in the early days. If we just finished a project like this was just be done, I'd be sweeping. In fact, when we did Boeing's headquarters, Boeing the aircraft company, which is in Mayfair, and Ronson from Heron, the one who went to jail, Heron Corporation, this was one of the richest real estates in the country. We had to be approved by FBI to do this job. So we had bomb blasts. And Christmas Eve, we just finished a job, and Dawn and myself was there hoovering that office. Hoovering. We did a project in Croydon, Optiva Housing. You heard of Optiva? And this is where I'll tell you about LinkedIn. I connected with the chief executive of Optiva Housing through LinkedIn. And through that, we got a project for about 1.7 million, 1.8 million pounds. When we finished the first phase of that job, I was sick that day. If you remember that weekend, I had the entire core family go and help clean that floor in the building. So don't think that I'm sitting here and I'm saying to you, blah, 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 and you think, no, he's just going to go back to his ivory castle. Trust me, I work as hard as everybody else. My family works as hard as everybody else. My pound goes a long way, just like yours. And that's what we do.
Sir, thank you for your time. It's been a distinct
pleasure
for all of us. We've learned an awful lot. For people who would want to take pictures, please be mindful. Only pictures. Mr. Taylor's been here since 6:30 or just before 6:30 this evening. So if you'd like to take pictures, indicate to an usher, and they'll arrange for you to come forward and take pictures with him. But on that note, I think it's just worth reminding you why we're here. It's about shaping lives. It's about shaping the lives of each other. It's about empowering ourselves to be able to change the future. We're back again in February for another event. We've got to take a pause for Christmas, as I'm sure everybody wants to go and enjoy their Christmas dinner and do their shopping and travel. But when we do come back, we will have another event. Please do stay tuned on social media at Worship Tea UK for more information. Church is back on Sunday, 2 services, 10 a.m. and at 12 noon. And on Wednesdays, well, not in December and in January, but in February, Wednesdays are back at 7:30 p.m. Sorry, Pastor.
I think Daniel Taylor deserves a great round of applause. Actually, a standing ovation. There's so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. We've got a gift. My wife's got a gift for you. I know we can't give you money. There are people upstairs and downstairs. We can't do anything, but just a token from the entire church.
Oh,
right.
so much. No, thank you. Thank you very much.
And we believe that it's just a token from us. No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And George, this is what's all about. Us connecting with people, and through him, we have connected to hundreds and hundreds of others just through this one single discussion. Sir, we really appreciate you. Thank you so much. We can get you to sit down. And you can take your seats. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I guess sometimes this is going out basically on social media platform, and it's also on our website. The entire stuff will be on our website, and also on Facebook, Instagram. If you join our Instagram page, Worship TUK. But also, if you want to look at this twist and turn, you can do that by our website. The whole thing should be on there by tomorrow. Send it out to your friends and family, and thank you so much. Remember, we have, as I said, 2 services on Sunday. There is no Wednesday service for the rest of the year. We come back in January, but January we normally meet just once on Fridays, where we'll have a time of prayer and all that. But we're all off for Christmas. I need a break. I need a break. I feel like going on a cruise too. But also that. And then also, I also want to mention thank you for all the guys who have tried to put this together. Michael, and especially Yemi, thank you so much for always linking us with great guys all around. Folks, God bless you. Can I get us to stand? We're just going to share the grace, and then we are ready to go home. Just because some guys are signaling to me, I want to just give you a gift. Is there anyone coming for the first time? Just wait. Anyone coming to this? We know. We know that there's still some people at the back. Can we get some help? Just keep waving. We'll put a gift into your hand. The first time, yes. Anyone else coming for the first? Oh, I see. Yeah. Thanks, bud. God bless you. All our details, most of our details, you would see on our website, and that will be a great help for you. On Sunday, we are back. I have been teaching on financial transition, and we're back for part 2 of financial transition under the aspect of good deeds for a great future. And this is all linked into what we're doing right now. And there's something you said that I can just open my notes right now for Sunday. And one of the things is that and I've said it before, but you have to have, even if you're working, not only a business, at least 6 months of living expenses minimum. And you just move it to 12, so it's now 12. And it's just reinforcing the things that we do. Thank you, everyone, and God bless. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the sweet fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and forevermore. And surely goodness and mercy will follow us all the days of our lives as we dwell in the house of the Lord forever and ever. Amen. Give 2 or 3 people a good warm hug, and God bless you, and see you on Sunday.